I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. And the blog is, if my mic is working properly, linked in the show description.
Yep, Drums in the Global Village. And you know, Dr. Ball, I was thinking, you know, while scheduling that post, I mean, all this broadcasting we're doing, all this writing we're doing, you know, I keep thinking like, well, you know, what is the purpose of all of this, right? But it really is to make sure that things are remembered correctly. And I think that future generations are going to have no excuse as to why certain things.
I see it very differently. I agree. Not so. In that. Well, I agree with the mission. It's a value, you know, a laudable mission. But I don't agree that they'll have no excuse. I think increasingly they'll have more excuses to not know of this work. That's the contradiction and the conundrum I personally feel we are facing. That because we're not only broadcasting and writing, etc. So is the so-called enemy, and they are creating ever more potential avenues through which to distract and omit and suppress and all of those things. So that said, let me officially welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining us over here. Thanks to Dr. Todd Stephen Burroughs for coming back again. For those who may be unaware, please check his work, the linked in the show description. Drums in the Global Village, a brilliant long-time academic and journalist and expert in the history of Black press.
And now I can say, please check our long work on YouTube and on iMWiL.org. We got years now just on YouTube, Dr. Ball. It's wild to check it out.
Oh no, not just the YouTube is cool, but the all the old radio. I mean, there's been a lot. It's been a long time now. I mean, I mean, actually, even just in you and me, it's almost 30 years as I start to think about it, which is crazy. And to think that the first time we met, I was on my way to see the Roots perform live at the 930 Club, which is still funny to me. And we stopped off at the instruction of Dr. Ali Johnson to meet you, and here we are, 30 years, basically 30 years later. It's crazy.
At the national headquarters of the NNPA. That's where we met.
And I didn't realize. I don't think I knew that at the time. So that's also wild. Because
so we met at the center of the Black press.
Wow.
That's some
yeah, that's deep.
That's symbolism, right?
Yeah, a lot of symbolism. Wow. Right. Yeah. Yeah. What's up, Sugar Booger? So yeah, peace to everybody who's over here joining us. Please do, if you missed it, go check out the Remix Morning Show this morning over at Black Liberation Media, where you will be treated to an impromptu freestyle from me and the Ear Doctor, in addition to all the other greatness that occurred this morning. But as I was trying to say initially, the plan has worked perfectly, because speaking of this 30-year collaboration that you and I are enjoying here, part of what has been my personal struggle is to get you into collaboration. So it is sometimes a struggle to get you to participate as much as I would like. So I said, I got him. I know this is going to work. I don't even have to put out an invitation. I'm just going to start talking about cartoons and comic books. I'm going to put Superman in the thumbnail, and it's like the bat signal, pun intended. And then you texted me immediately. I didn't even see it, but you were texting during the show yesterday.
It goes deeper than that. I called you. Now,
that's true.
How many times I call you? How many times I call you?
That's rare, actually.
How many times I call you? Once a year? Once every 2 years?
Yeah,
I called you. I was like, is this live? I was so excited. I said, is this live? Okay, I'm excited. Yeah. I was on YouTube, as I always am. My life is now YouTube, you know, and I'm going through all this stuff. And I see it, because when the first time I saw it, I said, man, I got to check this out. Because I clicked on it when I first saw it, but I was like, oh, it was scheduled, right? But then I saw, wow, it's live. So, like, I'm on the phone with somebody while watching it, right? And I'm going, okay, I know he's going to talk about Looney Tunes. I know he's going to talk about Looney Tunes. And I kept
No.
waiting and waiting. And I was like, wait, I said, oh, I forgot. I said, this is Dr. Ball. This is one of the great intellects, you know, the radical intellects. He can't talk about Looney Tunes. He's got to read you this stuff on propaganda and all of that. Because I was waiting for you to geek it up. I was waiting for you to put the pop culture history in. I was waiting for that.
No, I don't know. I'm not. No.
But I forgot. See, you're so serious. You're so serious.
No, I'm just limited.
No.
But I knew what I was doing. I said, this is why
you were doing, because I
said, I don't have to have it. I don't have to have it all, because he's going to contact me any minute now.
I contacted you and I begged you, right? I did not ask you. I did not demand of you. I begged you. I said, oh, we've got to do a part 2 on this. We've got to do a part 2 with the Looney Tunes. And you were like, when? I said, when? Tomorrow. That's when. Right?
And my text was exactly, I think I said almost verbatim. I said, so when you want to do it? Like, when are you ready? That was the whole point.
Tomorrow.
So
I pulled the hat out. I said, I got to pull the hat out.
And then you hit me. And I didn't look at anything. So you sent me a lot of stuff. So I'm going to experience this like everybody else this morning.
Well, then do you need me to do an intro? Do you need me to do a little intro?
You got to introduce whatever. All I'm going to be doing is clicking what you tell me to click, because I don't have. I have not. So I don't even know what. I don't even know what's happening here.
Well, first, let me give you then a producer's note then, because I know you're a busy man. You're an important man. I understand you have time to do the menial, you know, producer work that I do happily with great joy in my heart. Right. I sent you one video where somebody compiled the capitalism information in all 3 of the cartoons, Looney Tunes cartoons there. So there's a compilation, but I also sent you, and it says compilation under it.
Yeah.
But then I also
start with that. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Well, it depends on what you want to do, because I also sent you links to all 3 cartoons, and each cartoon is only 6 minutes. Now, let me give you some context in terms of your audience. And let me give you some geek historical context, and then you can decide what you want to do. So you can decide what you want to do while I take these kind of 2 minutes to kind of introduce this. Okay, what Dr. Ball talked about yesterday was extremely important, significant. And, you know, Sutherland, what was his name? Sutherland?
John Sutherland, yep.
Right, definitely, you know, helped to pioneer this whole kind of let's educate kids through cartoons, etc. And these were films that were shown first in theaters, and then later on used as educational vehicles. Because see, this was back in, we're talking 20th century stuff now, back when classrooms and schools had film projectors, and film projectors were used with these, you know, these educational films. So this whole career, this whole thing of educational films, in which Sutherland was perfectly positioned to show capitalism as part of that education process.
And the theaters themselves were different, right? So you would pay X amount of cents, and then you would see several films, and then in between these films, you would see these commercials and newsreels and stuff like that too, right?
Let's talk about that. Now, back during the time in which these cartoons were made, this is post-World War II. So now we're talking about when going to the movies probably cost 50 cents if you were an adult and 25 cents if you were a kid. Now, there were these things called Saturday matinees for kids. And so a kid would come in with a quarter. Like if you had $1, like you had enough money to go to the movies, get all sorts of food you wanted and everything. So like if you just had like $1, you could go get some popcorn, soda, whatever, and a movie ticket. And here's what you would see for the Saturday afternoon. You'd see a cartoon. Then you would see something called you'd see a musical short, which today we would call a musical video. You would see a newsreel, which is definitely a very propagandized, you know, kind of a World War II era pre and post television report. And you know, you can see the March on Time, the March of Time. You can see all this stuff on YouTube. It's all on YouTube. And then you'd be able to see what was called a movie serial. Now, a movie serial was a live action superhero show or action show that was cut up into 15 parts. And so you'd see a part. Now, the homages to this is, the most famous homage to this kind of format is the Indiana Jones movies, right? The Indiana Jones movies are homages to this. The serial would start on a cliffhanger and then end on a cliffhanger. And then you'd have to come back next week and see the next part. And then you would get one movie or two. And this is what kids got. So these cartoons, now every studio had their own folks, so Universal, Paramount, Warner Brothers, every major film studio had their own cartoon unit who would do their own cartoons. So like, for instance, Popeye was Paramount, and Looney Tunes, Merry Melodies was Warner Brothers. And so what we're about to see today is when Warner Brothers and Looney Tunes got funded by this Alfred Sloan Foundation to produce cartoons about capitalism. This is like the original Schoolhouse Rock. If you remember Schoolhouse Rock, and if you know that kind of stuff, which is all good except for the history. The history ones you got to really toss out.
Except for the history.
Right, you got to toss out the history ones.
And the Sloan Foundation had funded at one point Sutherland too. He was part of that. He had been part of that clique too.
They fund everybody. They fund PBS. They fund the local PBS station here, Channel 13. They fund everybody. So they decided to pay Warner Brothers to take their Looney Tunes characters and to illustrate the greatness of capitalism and saving and investing. Now, Dr. Ball, I don't know if we're going to have time to watch the Adventures of Superman episode that I also sent you, since you put Superman in the
well, that was also kind of like a joke for me, because especially with the expression on his face, it's kind of like he's the one.
Looked like he was being brainwashed, right?
And it also, to me, is him conveying this condemnation of his fellow cartoons being used in this way, or someone who is himself propaganda, looking at other propaganda as if they're a lesser form of his more sophisticated propaganda.
By the way, Yipper 99,
however, whatever.
By the way, Yipper 99, you saw that Flintstones commercial because the Flintstones did live commercials for Marlboro, so you can see those on YouTube. So like they would have the cartoon, and then they would cut to the cartoon of them promoting Marlboro cigarettes, right? Since the Flintstones was one of the first adult cartoons, that's why you saw that. But let me get to this. There is an episode of The Adventures of Superman devoted to capitalism. And it cannot be aired on television. And you know why it can't be aired on television?
Why?
Because it was paid for by the Department of the Treasury, not only for showing directly in schools. And that's on savings bonds. Because I added 2 savings bonds. One, I think your audience is seeing the one with Bugs Bunny during World War II, where he does blackface. For U.S. savings bonds. That was during World War II. But after World War II, they enlisted Superman to do a whole show on U.S. savings bonds and savings stamps and all that. So we have that as well. So I don't know if we have time for all of that, but that's what we have. So
I mean, I think the issue is more: do we have? Are we going
to? It's
all public domain.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
So that's more of the issue than anything else. If it's all public domain, let's get busy.
The cartoons might not be in public domain, but the Adventures of Superman is in public domain. So
that would that's more
cartoons, or do you want to see the compilation?
You're in charge. You driving this train, man. So where do you think we need to start? So the only question I had real quick was, how did Alfred P. Sloan make his money? That was the where did that wealth come from that turned into so I just was trying to look that up very quickly.
It's right in the wiki on the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. General Motors.
Perfect. General Motors. Perfect. Yes, he was the elected president of General Motors in 1923, succeeding Pierre S. DuPont.
Right.
So okay, perfect. That makes all the sense in the world.
So you can pick any of the 3 cartoons. It doesn't matter. They paid for all 3. Just pick one. They're all 6 minutes apiece, and we can talk through them, like you did.
So like the Yankee Dood It?
Yep. Those. Right. And that's it. That's the first one.
Wow. I don't know what that was.
Now, it probably went down to the next one. I think we were on Facebook, so it goes down to the next
Yeah.
automatically. So that was the first one. That was Yankee Dood It. By the way, these were all written by the same writer. I forget the writer's name, but I have it in that email. He wrote a lot of the major cartoons for everybody, including the Flintstones. So like they got the top people to do this.
Well,
top directors, writers, everybody.
Yeah, I copied what you. Let's see. What did you?
I forget the guy's name, but I listed him there.
Warren Foster.
Yep, Warren Foster.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right, so that's the first one.
No, I'm just looking at what you would the wiki for him.
Right. Right.
So 1904 to 1971, he worked on Popeye, Fleischer Studios, Warner Brother Cartoons. Okay. And he was the one that wrote all of these that we're looking at here. Is that what you're saying?
Flintstones, including one of my
John Sutherland Productions.
Oh wow, I didn't catch that. Oh,
he was initially employed by John Sutherland Productions, providing screenplays for industrial films. Wow.
Yep. All right, so that's the first one. Now, I just want to point out to the audience that this cartoon was being done during a time in which the United States controlled 2/3 of all the manufacturing on Earth because Europe had been bombed out during World War II. Europe was still rebuilding. So the United States was able to jump on controlling manufacturing, which it did.
Wow.
That's all, folks.
Wow.
Yeah, I knew you would love that one.
So this is what they had me watching all those years? And I didn't even know it.
And again, these cartoons are still in rotation on MeTV and MeTV Tunes.
But yeah, I mean, it is. I mean,
because what do you want to do? Mess up the whole system?
The whole system. We are living in an alley, literally having irons thrown at our face in a dumpster because of this incredible system that you are now threatening to upset by trying to hand us $1 million. That's
it's great. It's so great.
That is some amazing.
Right.
Yeah, don't give me money.
Right.
Invest it back into society.
Right, back into society.
Exploiting my labor and having me live in a damn dumpster.
Because it was capitalism that gave us the lower hours, the lesser hours. It was capitalism that gave us that.
It's industry.
Not the labor movement.
No, right. Not the labor movement.
No labor movement.
And nobody's getting rich. There's no exploitation. This man comes home from work to all these fancy appliances in his new car. His wife is still in there cooking and cleaning, but she's got new fancier equipment to use. So
right.
All right. So this next one is WordofMouse.
Oh, yes. Okay. The immigrant experience. Yes. This is very important. This is very important. The new world is teaching the old world what the world is like now. Oh, you'll love this one, folks. Here we go.
So Todd, are you back with us? Because this was one of the other things you did have. Yeah.
So that was the Bonds. We don't need to play it, but we can show he's in blackface. We go. This is a very famous blackface portrayal where he's, of course, doing the Al Jolson blackface of the jazz singer.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's buy bonds, buy freedom. In fact, they say buy a piece of freedom today. That's the song.
Buy a piece of freedom.
Freedom today. And so, yeah, it was those three cartoons, and then this episode of The Adventures of Superman, which is all about the power of savings bonds. Savings bonds or savings stamps are the focus of the plot.
And this, Stamp Day for Superman.
That's it. And that's the one that the Department of the Treasury paid for, and it was used as an educational film for years and years and years. They cannot air that on television.
Well, it's also 17 minutes. Are we going to watch this whole thing? Was that your plan, to watch the whole thing?
You don't have to watch the whole thing. we could go in and out. I mean, it's really just about how saving stamps, saves the day. So even if you want to just watch the last 10 minutes of it or last 5 minutes of it, that'll be enough.
Well,
The United States Treasury Department presents The Adventures of Superman.
Now that's replacement of their normal sponsor, which is Kellogg's. Syndication and aired in never-ending syndication for up until the early 80s.
can you say a little bit about what we're skipping?
I'll summarize the plot. Jimmy Olsen buys a typewriter because of his saving stamps. Superman is asked to go speak to some kids at a school about the importance of saving stamps. Lois borrows the typewriter, and of course, as Lois Lane is wont, gets involved with a crook, and the crook kidnaps her, and she uses the typewriter to send a message to the Daily Planet, and Superman comes to her rescue. So it's all thanks to the typewriter that Jimmy got through saving stamps. So that we can go right from here.
You're just wasting your ammunition, Blinky. Sit down. Hey, let me out. Let me out.
Another few seconds and it would have been too late, Superman.
Well, it wasn't, Miss Lay, and that's what counts. What time is it?
Just about 12:30.
Well, I can't wait for the police. I have an appointment date. Excuse me.
Well, you won't have to worry about riding your pals now, Blinky.
Hi, boys and gals. There can only be one Superman, of course. Did you ever think about some of the super things that you can do for yourself? Well, like saving up the money for your own vacation, or for that new bike that you wanted so much. Well, all you have to do is just put away part of your allowance or your odd job money and put it in United States savings stamps at school. Those dimes, quarters, and dollars add up mighty fast, especially when you buy them every week on stamp day. Well, the first thing you know, you'll have enough for a savings bond, just like Dad buys for the payroll savings at work. And from then on, the sky's the limit. Take it from Superman. Your mom and dad will be plenty proud of you if you're learning to save regularly. And the teachers are on your team, too. They make sure of having savings stamps at school for you to buy and remind you when it is stamp day. And so, boys and girls, be super citizens and have a super future by saving regularly with United States savings stamps at school. And keep on making me and everyone else as proud of you as we are today. Bye now.
And so that's brought to you by the U.S. Department of Treasury.
Support. Oh, wow. So it's the appeal to the collective with the added twist of doing for self and the individual, all under the all to benefit the great capitalist society of free enterprise. And wow, I mean that's wild.
If you help us rescue capitalism and help us refund Europe, the Marshall Plan,
right,
we will give you a toy. We will give you a cookie. We'll give you a typewriter. We'll give you money to buy something. Yes, Ricky,
yeah,
marketed to children in schools for at least a decade.
Right.
Educational films, they were called, of course.
Yeah, it was released in 1954, 18 minutes for the Treasury Department. Wow. Yeah, man.
Now one day, maybe when Superman turns 90 in 2028, if we're all still doing this, I mean, I could do a whole symposium by myself on Superman. I mean, there's so many things that he gets caught into. I mean, to be a Depression era creation of two young white Jewish teens, when he gets taken by the government, it's for real. I mean, in terms of there are whole books on Superman, the atomic bomb, and how he guessed what was going on in the Manhattan Project, and they censored the strip, and how he was used during World War II. and how DC worked with the government during World War II. I mean, there are whole books and things on that, as well as the whole thing of him exposing the Ku Klux Klan on the radio show, and there are whole books on that as well. So, but this gives you an idea of the kind of patriotism through capitalism that was connected after World War II. The Nazi menace was replaced by the communist menace.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I don't know if we saw in the intro, if we saw the full intro, this is the period of time in which they say Superman is for truth, justice, and the American way.
American way, that's right.
Because the American way is added after World War II.
That's right.
To oppose the communist way, the Soviet way. And they do that directly as a result of that. So, yeah, I mean, all of this stuff fits the same pattern because they're all done by the same people who believe the same things and who are rewarded by the government to promote these values.
No, I just thought it was fascinating. Again, the particular in this particular time period, and what I had not really paid sufficient focus to really until reading this, and also Francis Stoner Saunders' Cultural Cold War, but this really kind of, I don't, for some reason, it never really crystallized for me that this was the thin edge that the ruling elite felt that they were on in terms of this country falling to socialism, and the need to re-educate people away from what they had clearly just experienced. It was kind of like what we were seeing a version of, I think, coming out of to the extent we have the COVID pandemic, that there had to be a re-educational process, I think, still going on to bring us back from the edge of watching money created, jobs created, the government get involved, handle the needs of the people. They were like, nah, we got to get that out of here. But,
I mean, FDR died before he tried to go push through the Economic Bill of Rights, right? Which would have gotten a lot more advances in American society. But he died and was replaced by Truman, who went in a very clear direction. And that's how we got. We live in Truman's America.
So, well, look, man, I don't know. We definitely have to come back and I'm happy to reschedule or schedule this Superman talk for you and have you give that whenever you're ready. And
the important thing I just want to say here is that all of this was agreed upon parts of American society. The suburban middle class that is being created, that is consuming these goods, refrigerators being in every home, TV being in every home. This is the beginning of that. And so these cartoons, of course, reflect the growing affluence that the white middle class that was being created at the time had. And so the defense of the American life not only meant denying capitalism and putting that to the side, but it also means benefits for those who can conform within the American society. And that's where we get movies that rebel against that, like The Organization Man, and that's where we get rock and roll. That's where we get the horror comics that almost destroyed the comic industry, the EC comics, because all of that is rebellion against the 50s conformity that is being fed in. And so these cartoons show you, as you see, they're all from 1953, 54. They're all from the same period of time. Right before what? Right before Civil Rights Movement.
Before the Civil Rights Movement, the rise of the Cold War. As I mentioned the other day, it's all connected to the selling of the Negro and the rise of the black bourgeoisie. And it really did lay the groundwork for where we are today with where people think they are with financial literacy, with popular culture, with the embedded messaging. I think it's only gotten more sophisticated, but it's still going on. And then, as you said, they're still playing some of these cartoons are still in rotation. So that's just wild. That's wild. That's wild. But
if you're
yeah.
interested in these cartoons, I mean, again, MeTV Toons. Don't watch the ones that have a definite name. Watch the ones where they call Showcase or whatever. You can watch like Bugs Bunny and Friends. They will slip some of these cartoons in that have never been shown or haven't been shown in decades, because they kind of know what's going on. They're curators, so they kind of slip these in to give you kind of a taste of what's going on. That's how I discovered some of these.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. We can wrap here. I'm gonna I'll start building with you immediately to schedule the next visit and look for ways to coerce you back around here. And I appreciate you reaching out and wanting to offer up this part 2. Yeah. Anything else you want to drop on us before we get out of here? Anything else that you want to?
I love propaganda. Didn't Du Bois say art is propaganda? I love propaganda.
He said it should be. That was his point, that it should be. That if I remember correctly, his argument was that everybody and we should be producing propaganda for our purposes as well. And as I remember it, there was that back and forth, or that disagreement with Zora Neale Hurston, who did not agree with him on that, who was among those, at least, who didn't agree with him on that. But whether it is or should be, propaganda is in the mix for sure.
If I think of something else geeky and that deals with American 20th century culture, I will definitely reach out to this audience, because I know this audience loves all of this. And I appreciate having a forum to discuss these things. Thank you, everybody.
No, anytime, my man. Thank you very much. And to everybody, thanks for sticking with us through the hiccups. Please do like, share, subscribe, support the channel. All the links are in the show description, including the link to Dr. Burroughs' work. And on behalf of Dr. Burroughs and all those in the Remixer chat, peace to you, because I know you're willing to fight for it. And we'll catch you next time here at
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.
What do you sacrifice? Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago, for which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, they set me on a path from which there's no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything, 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 everything.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like.